Hi, I'm Sarah Brzezinski. Welcome to the Chesapeake Biological Laboratory's Young Alumni Interview Series. Today I'm joined by Jess, who has a career in environmental consulting. Jess, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Why don't you go ahead and tell us a bit about yourself? Where are you from?
Great. Yes, I'm was born and raised in Massachusetts, right outside the city, and I've moved around a lot since then. I did my undergraduate work at the University of Rhode Island, and it got to work a little bit there with the Graduate School of Oceanography and really get some great experience that led to my career in environmental science and coastal ecology.
So, building on the experiences that you had in undergrad, how did you find out about the Chesapeake Biological Laboratory and why did you decide to come study with us?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I was aware of the UMCES program, and after graduating from my undergrad, I took, I think, about a year and a half off in that time. And while I was at University of Rhode Island, I worked in Dr. Scott Nixon's lab, and I got to know a lot of the ecosystems, ecologists, and got connected with one of Dr. Nixon's PhD students who became a professor, and that's Dr. Laura Harris, who works at the Chesapeake Biological Lab, and she became my primary advisor.
And what did you conduct your thesis research on while you were with CBL?
Yeah, so my master's thesis work was really a continuation of some of the work that Dr. Laura Harris started in her PhD with the virtual eelgrass meadow model. And so essentially, I took a piece of the model and wanted to really dive into the different life stages of seagrasses and how we can do a better job at predicting growth, survival, expansion, and shifting, uh, regional appearances of a species, Zostra marina, which we commonly called eelgrass. But really diving into things like its reproductive phenology, looking at the effects of climate change, looking at the effects of land use on this particular seagrass species. And my piece was focused on advancing our capabilities using modeling to be able to test different hypotheses and ask those types of questions that can then inform land use decisions, conservation decisions, and restoration.
Can you tell me a little bit about why you think someone who isn't a scientist should be interested in the research that you conducted?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and something I think about often working as a consultant and in the private sector. So there's lots of ecosystem services and co-benefits that are provided by healthy coastal ecosystems, such as seagrass meadows. It's really can be the basis of a strong economically driven fisheries. It has implications for water quality, and it also, is really the basis of some of the healthy coastal environments that we really want to conserve. Um,
So, Jess, can you tell me a little bit about how your education at the Chesapeake Biological Laboratory helped prepare you for your career?
yeah. Um, so, what I really liked about my education at CBL is you get this really small, close knit feel, having sort of the campus structure. So I was at the Chesapeake Biological Lab, and you have a lot of access to really cool professors and scientists and science ongoing in sort of this smaller setting, but then you're backed by the larger institution that is the University of Maryland. And while I was at CBL, I also spent a couple semesters taking classes at the College Park campus, where there's a whole, suite of other resources and coursework that you would expect at a really large university, but being based in Solomon's Island and at CBL, you got sort of the small feel and the attention of some, really cutting edge researchers and peers. So you have this close knit thing going on, and then you also have access to so many other disciplines and resources within a large institution.
The best of both worlds in a way.
Yeah.
So just after you graduated, what did your career path look like?
Well, I guess taking a step back, a year into my master's, I also heard about the Knauss Marine Policy Fellowship that is offered through the National Sea Grant College Program, but essentially you work with your local state Sea Grant to get connected to. And so while I hadn't graduated yet, and since the application process is fairly long, I applied for a Knauss Fellowship, and that fellowship program for me, I feel like really set my career on the right trajectory and gave me really interesting perspective working at the 10,000 foot level of science policy, getting to work at NOAA. I worked for NOAA Research, and my mentor was Craig McLean, who's the assistant administrator of NOAA Research. And the opportunities that were presented to me that year were incredible, including, getting to meet and network with so many NOAA scientists, visiting all of NOAA's research labs around the country, participating in the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission meeting, which is a large international UN UNESCO conference in Paris, France, as well as getting to work with Congress members and on the Capitol Hill about issues related to marine science. And so that was an excellent opportunity that presented myself at CBL, and
That's great.
really filled in my career. Yeah, thank you.
It sounds like a wonderful opportunity. And Jess, where are you working now and what do you do?
Yes, so now I work for a large international consulting company. Within the company, I am an ecologist and a resilience specialist. I'm really focused on ecological restoration and nature-based solutions. I work a lot with interdisciplinary teams of engineers, architects, scientists, permitters, sort of what have you, interdisciplinary teams that are very much focused on the integration of engineering with nature and how we can green the gray to some of these areas. And, my particular focus being coastal, but I also work inland, rivers and inland wetlands. But that's something I really enjoy and what my main focus is on in my job in environmental consulting. But also as a consultant, you kind of do a variety of things, which is what I like. We have kind of a seller doer model at my company. And so I do a little bit of marketing, project management, and then the implementation of the work.
So overall, as the careers of young scientists develop, what advice would you give them to help them along their way?
Yeah. So something that I've really benefited from is utilizing my network essentially, and by network, really just mean people you've met, maybe teachers or professors you've taken courses with, or others that, your peers as well. I would say don't hesitate to reach out to folks if you have questions, or, don't hesitate to reach out to other young alumni and this video series. Something I did a lot was the concept of informational interviews. As you find someone who's doing really cool work or has a really cool job that you like, reach out to them and just even call cold on email and say, hey, I am really interested in the work that you do. I'd love to chat for a half hour one day or 20 minutes if you have time.
That's a
Because
great way to get an
yeah,
introduction to different careers. I think
people
that's
are
really
more
good advice.
willing to talk about or people are a lot more willing to take you up on that offer. And, sometimes people won't get back to you, but that's fine. I'd say the majority do.
What advice would you give to a kid, say a 10-year-old who's interested in pursuing a career in science, technology, engineering, or math?
Yeah. Well, at that age, I feel like just continue to geek out and follow your passion and, learn about things you're really interested in.
Oh my goodness, for kids, it's such a great piece of advice to find your passion. And it sounds like you've found your passion and have been able to pursue that in a career. And I really appreciate you taking the time for speaking with me today. And it's been great catching up.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you so much, Sarah, for doing this. And it's been so fun to catch up with you as well. And just to make a trip down memory lane and especially think again about all the good times at CBL. So thank you.
Aw. Well, thank you, Jess, and thank you everyone for joining us. Have a nice day.
Thanks.